the July 66 coup and you subsequently becoming head of state, there were attacks on people from the southeast in the northern region, and even in parts of the western region as well. The people in the southeast call it a poldra. What was your assessment of what happened, and what did you try to do to stop those killings of people from the southeast?
My goodness, it was something that we did not expect. That was more of reaction of what either happened in the area. Now, if you remember, before Iran's did you remember something that the regions are going to be disbanded and all going to be provincial when you became a British state, that is going to become provinces. And of course, there was a lot of reaction, fear and reaction from all the regions, well, of course, except this Midwest probably touch on it because it is already quite normal that some they have their own vision, but there was reaction in the north and the west, against that unitary system of government, which it is very people attempt because they were afraid of being overwhelmed by the people from the east. There was that fear because that was why the leadership that in the north and Palestine leadership, the whiter, and the military leadership also were wiped out at the same time. And the reaction, really, that is, that really created, some of the thing that happened. It is not the military that that did it. The military one that did was the revenge, whereby all the officers that took part in the coup were, of course, completely taken in, and but I do not know what they did to them, but at least those of them that were able to be taken from the various prisons, in the country. Yes, I think they were unfortunately penalty. But some of them that lived, for example, in Zionde, later on, tried to fight. And unfortunately, he was killed in operation. Terrible towards the Indian people. As you know, Banjo, was taken, I think, somewhere in this and in others. So really, a lot of ways thing that happened, it was more or less the reaction of what happened in January, and some of the.
And you couldn't stop.
No, of course, I had to stop it, my goodness. I remember during that time, during that crisis, yes, what one has to do in whatever way one could to get the leadership authorities in those areas to stop from got bus rhinos. And I spoke to some of the chiefs, some of the political leaders that were there, people that at least people that can do something to douse the situation. And with Bauchi, I remember that the emir of Bauchi that I had to speak to has my name. So he was my namesake. His name was, I could be with certain Bauchi. less of an I spoke to them, and to do whatever we can, and also the soldiers, to make sure that the people were protected. And it is not from the act of the military, but the reaction of the population, because of what's happened to their leadership. When you come to think of it,
But then, of course, the people in the southeast felt that that was the clearest indication to them that they were no longer wanted in the union that was Nigeria. They then broke away. And of course, after that came the horror of the Civil War, because you went out to bring them back, to forcibly bring them back. That Civil War happened under your watch. As you look back at that period with the benefit of hindsight, could that conflict that claimed millions of lives have been prevented?
yes, I think I have said that if the East does not break up from Nigeria, yes, that was what I kept on saying. Why people say that they want to say no. I have a responsibility, to keep Nigeria, Nigeria. And as far as I'm concerned, that is my duty. And I won't. But if from the situation gets to this stage, when I have to choose between allowing the breakup, or happy to stop it physically. I know where my responsibility is because of my loyalty, love and loyalty to the country.
And many, but there were attempts. Sorry, go ahead.
So let me just say,
Sure.
and the question of the millions of people that we say between, right from the beginning, if I may, made sure that it is not a war against the Igbos as such, but it is in order to stop the breaking up of Nigeria. Right. Yes, and so what I did, what I did, I get a code of conduct. How the operations was to go, etc. And we are not fighting the people. Make sure that we protect them, or people protect the women, and children, and and you will only take up arms against those who take up arms against you. And honestly, and with the instruction that anything that was done against the population that is not correct would be dealt with, and it is that was done, and it is not millions of people. Now, we tried to send leaflets people to be sure that honestly it is not fight against them, but we had to stop the government leading the union, what we have. And even they should not, for me to talk, that of course, when the names that I was called at that time, they also were from the vandal, the whatever it is, there was no name that I was.
It was the propaganda of the war.
Okay, accepted. We used to say, please don't move, don't run away. But of course, they used to tell their people they should run away from those vandals, from those horrible leadership that is going to treat them. And that is how a lot of people lost their lives. And then when we tried to say the question of feeding, feeding the people, for example, we used to allow aid to come, but we said let it come to Nigeria and let it be inspected by international people, so that there is no question of weapon the Christ might do. And but the other side refuses. So what can you do? We also arrange for we the food to be able to be taken in by Lord and etc. That of course, the other side will jibble. You say no because of other work. Nigeria is going to poison the food. Whether we are afraid of weapons being in there, but of Nigeria will be poisoning the food, and so they will say no to that. But and in the end, really a lot of people, it is not from the people killed by gunshots. Right. But all the palm trees, trees that I saw when I went to that part of the country, and I saw all those black spots on trees, palm trees, etc. And I was wondering what sort of disease is this from those trees. And someone said, no, those are bullet marks. So most of the bullets were more on the on those trees.
Not on people.
Not on people.
But I mean, that was obviously when the war had started and advanced. Prior to the start of the war, many analysts have suggested that if the Aburi Accord had been implemented, the tragedy of the Civil War might have been averted, and they blame you for reneging on that Aburi Accord. Is that how you see it? Did your government renege on the Aburi Accord?
Well, I think that is the interpretation that we don't know whether that accord was the actual final result written from it was not to be done until after we got home.
But you agreed to the accord when you were in Gaf.
No, this is the accord. It is not a question of agreement in accord. This, it is when we come back home, and I made it. I made a statement. When you come back home, and I make a statement that you about Aburi.
Right. Because that's why it was called an accord. An accord means that you had agreed.
No, accord. But then it has to be done in Nigeria before Friday.
So you needed to come home and discuss it.
Unfortunately, when the first people didn't want to believe it, I was having a serious attack of either fever or whatever it is, and I could not make any decision. No, at home. Right. When we arrived in home, and Tojuku was one who then, when he came, he went and made made the statement. He made the statement about the Aburi Code, and the governor of the Midwest did Eje. Then rang me at that very early hours of the game to tell me, he said, "Have you heard?" So I said, "Had not." And you know what Oji God said? So I said, "No." I haven't had anything that that happened, but that is the reason why I could not make from this statement, which would have been clearly say exactly what we agree with anything about it. And he told me, like, oh, you said you were going to move a cat. We did the